Hola, estamos al vivo. Oh, hello everyone. We are here in this panel discussion. I'm Ana Luisa Rodrigues. I'm represent the Bora Girls. It's a collaborative of 10 Brazilian artists divided between Brazil and London. They live it. And we have this kind of Blaw image window in Blaze image in Notting Hill. And we have this pleasure to invite Tere Chad to be the curator of the project. You can see in the visual in the window project, and she invited 8 artists, and there we are. We can start introducing Tere. She's a Chilean artist and curator of the Blaw Editions and Neo North, to be held in Helsinki in September. Focus in general and sensibility and promote Latin American art and culture abroad. She's currently exhibiting her outdoor sculpture, Are We Sinking, on the sculpture terrace of the Royal Society of Sculpture in London. In the exhibition is Space Lapsed in the Royal College of Art and Sculpture 2020. Tere, would you like to say something?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me tonight. And it has been my pleasure to be the curator of Blaw Editions. I felt it has been a big challenge, especially because for the arts, I mean, we as artists, we live from exhibiting our art, and in times of the pandemic, it's something quite hard and difficult. And that's why I felt intrigued about this opportunity, because it was about playing around and finding a way of exhibiting art when during the lockdown. So it was actually quite an interesting experience to be able to organize and curate this window exhibition. So thank you very much, Isa, for inviting me.
Oh, pleasure. And you did amazing work. I know it's very tough moments, especially to invite, artists and to be involved. Thank you, Tere. And now I'd like to introduce Susana Uvidia. She's born in Urbanda in central Ecuador. Her practice for identity and her own personal experience of facing stereotypes while immigrated into a different culture. She completed a Master Fine Arts degrees in Central St. Martin's University of Arts, London in 2018, and some of her most remarkable awards include a commission for the Clifford Chances Law Firm London 2019. Hello, Susana.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Would you like to say anything else more about you?
Yes, well, you say already what I did when I came here. It was incredible experience to live in a different culture and to see how that experience changed and moved completely my artistic practice. That was interesting, and to study here helped me with this expression of being different. So that was the main thing that is my experience now here.
That's lovely. Well, now I'd like to introduce Josefa Searle. She's a Chilean artist who has studied architecture and aesthetic of photography in university in Chile, Milan, and London. Today, she's based in Lisbon to develop hand practice. In parallel to her architectural work, her photograph research focused on the relationship between the body and space. Hello, Josefa. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, would you like to say, I don't know, something more, or do?
I would like to, yes, thank everyone for inviting me to be a part of this experience. I think it has been, even though we are in a pandemic situation, these opportunities are because of the situation we're in. So I'm thankful for that. Yes, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really, thank you to have you all here. And the last one is Doménica Landín. She's an Ecuadorian-born artist and design. She graduated from a MA texture program of Hoyo College Art in 2018, where she developed an interdisciplinary practice around in color and material research. Training was a waiver. Her practice crosses disciplines of art, design, and education. Hello, Doménica.
Hello, Annalisa. How are you?
I'm good. And you, would you like to go a little beyond, or you?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this exhibition. It was really it was a challenging time for everyone. So in the midst of being in lockdown, making this work, as well as meeting other artists who are Latin American women, and that we're all living in different parts. That was, I think, also that exchange very exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it actually is exciting, but it's challenging in another way, have this kind to work and practice without the borders. Well, I think I can start with some questions. I don't want to just pop up some about practice. I don't know, I can start with you, Tere. What you'd like to expand your especially you're a creator, but you have an artist, a creator work for Blaw image and Blaze image. Would you like to explain and talk about your work?
Well, I would be delighted. At the moment, I have a piece called Are We Sinking at the terrace of the Royal Society of Sculptors. I am really excited and feel very grateful because it's my first time exhibiting a piece in the public space. This piece, it has almost taken me 2 years to finish it with the COVID interruptions. So it's also a pleasure to have it on display. And I was initially invited for an exhibition in Shoreham in Kent, but then the exhibition was cancelled with COVID. And what I was looking for concepts, I think in my practice, I'm very concerned about embracing and encouraging society or viewers or people to reassess haptic sensitivity, because I think that with new media, that on the one hand, it opens up doors for having amazing experiences, like, for example, we're speaking here now from different places and we can have a conversation. But regardless, I sometimes feel it's encouraging people and us to disconnect from our natural environment. And I wrote my dissertation about this topic, and how my dissertation at the Royal College of Art, and how this impacts over the environmental crisis. So that's why I think that as an artist, I try to invite to go back to our hands. And this piece, when I was thinking of what I could do, it was actually before COVID, and I did this huge, very large, like 2 meters long origami paper boat. And then I covered with 4 layers of jesmonite and fiberglass. And I did it with my hands because I want, when people approach it, they can see this texture and this tactility, so that you actually can see how the hands were building up something. And it's a sinking boat, as I wanted to somehow portray what I would call its strange times that we're going through, where everything seems collapsing. Normal structures and institutions seem that they don't make sense anymore. And it also has a bit of a sense of humor, or it's also it's a bit ironic, because I have this pole with 3 vultures looking down, which make allusion to Noah's Ark. But this time, the bird is not the one that's going to save the people who were in the boat. Well, this time, these 3 birds are just waiting for it to sink. And I think it's wonderful to have it in Chelsea, because I hope it invites the people who pass by to reflect, as I feel that change needs to be embraced collectively. And on a different aspect of my practice, I would say I'm quite multidisciplinary. I work in different media. I'll be also having an exhibition with Sustainability First in South Bermondsey Space at the end of June. Well, we're having with you, Ana Luisa, an exhibition together with Alteras in July. And I'm also having a solo exhibition at Sari Gallery in Fitzrovia, where I'll be showing some of my prints and paintings and sculptures. And then in Finland in October, the end of September, we will be having with Susana Neo Norte 3 exhibition that's about Latin America, and also breaking stereotypes and showing different ways of representation.
No, that's fantastic. You know, for the whole agenda for the year is really, really great. And I must say, Tere, I have the pleasure to see your sculpture yesterday, and the whole society sculpture is looking really gorgeous and it's brilliant. Well done. And just I completely forgot to say that before, but if one would like to put some question in the chat. Just have a look, Tere. It's possible. It's activate, because I received some message. It doesn't work. The chat in the live. Yeah. Okay. Just a small note, and let's continue with the questions. Let's see. Maybe how about you, Susana, to ask about what do you think about Latin America identity?
Oh, it's very complex subject. Speak about Latin America identity, but what I can say is our heritage is a mix, is a blend of European, indigenous, Black, Asians, people, languages, and culture. So that make a very richness of multicultural identity through South America. And you can perceive that when you travel to every country, every city, every town is totally different. And personally, I think the difference lies in the percentage of some ethnic groups that some countries have more than others. Yeah. So that make the difference between South America.
Yeah, no, I must agree, because I'm Brazilian. You know, it's different kinds of Latin America society, and I completely agree with what you say, Susana. We have really multiple background and heritage and styles, and yeah, it's complicated topic to try to put in a sentence. What do you mean Latin American identity? But
yeah, in Ecuador we don't have that kind of mix that you have in Brazil. Oh my God, it's crazy. But it's about the richness that we have in South America.
Yeah, I think this is the greatness, you know, because you have this kind of background culture, and yeah, thank you. Let's have a look, and maybe you, Josefa. Well, what about I don't know, to talk about some Latin America female artists that inspire you and you think it's be kind of related to your work?
Well, I have one of my biggest references is Graciela Iturbide. She's a photographer, and she goes and she studies with a camera that is almost like this scientific instrument that the colonizers actually brought in their trips. She goes into these indigenous tribes and studies them, but in a very respectful way, relating to the people. She makes huge projects almost from within, and she always seeks to find the magic behind that. So she's very sensitive and sensible, and her projects are I think they are a very good mix of how do Latin Americans relate to land with medium that is not natural or it's not from us. So that mix, she's wonderful. And I think documentary work as a photographer is very important. You never know if it's in the realm of art or in the realm of anthropology or other subjects, but she develops her work in a beautiful way.
Oh, nice. And you have this kind of approach in your own photography, your own practice?
I try to. I haven't had the luck to travel so much to these places, and every time I do, I feel like I am this outsider. So I wish someday I can break that. Yes.
Yes.
Because within Latin America we have so many realities that you're always going to be an outsider.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know. So
no.
yeah, I wish to pass that eventually.
Yeah, nice. Oh, good one. I hope you can achieve it.
Thank you.
Oh, now your turn, Doménica. Don't forget about you. Have very one good question. I don't know, what do you think about to few Latin America to have enough visibility in London? What do you think? I don't know, just for your own practice, or I don't know, the own Latin America female artists in general. Do you think you will have visibility here?
Yeah. I will be afraid of making statements about that. I mean, from my, I could only say from my perspective.
Of course.
No, it can be something like a yes and no. I believe that, you know, there have been attempts of, you know, making exhibitions that they portray, you know, Latin America art, or perhaps, you know, separately like women art. But together, perhaps it's something that is starting to emerge. And but in terms of visibility as a collective and group, I'm not aware, to be honest, from my perspective. You know, this was sort of like when I started to, actually when I met Tere and I started to get involved in the first Neo Norte exhibition. You know, I'm an Ecuadorian, and I've been living in initially in Italy and then in London, but I never met many Ecuadorians. I never came across within my circle, and I always felt in a way very, you know, lonely in that sense, just like, okay, it's just me. So with that, it was the first sort of approach that there is this, you know, there is a community, and then it was exciting for me. So I'm unaware of what's happening, you know, in a much more sort of like on a bigger scale or different context. But I think this sort of activities and groups and people coming together shows in a way an emergence of the need to express, you know, a Latin American woman collective, and it's exciting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Actually, I can say for, I don't know, for us, for the Bora Girls, you know, it is our one kind of our point to try to spread and have this kind of make more, I don't know, not important, I don't think this is the word, but maybe more knowledge about the whole Latin America female artists to live in London, try to have this relationship with the community. And that's one reason we invite Tere, you know, to try to encourage and to know more the Latin Americans to live in London, to try to make, I really believe we stronger, we get better, you know, have the better voices or the better achievement in something in the whole society.
Yeah, and I think it's exciting, even, you know, even just having this conversation with different, you know, it's like it's sort of like saying similar experiences from different women from Latin America. We've all had our different sort of, you know, what brought us here, you know, to be an artist, and what does it mean. So even the conversation, it's already, you know, starting something that, you know, could develop into, you know, bigger things, or, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is maybe a start point for something, you know, for we continue to achieve and have big exhibitions or bigger visibilities. Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's back to you, Teddy.
May I first add something to what Doménica said? Because
yeah, of course.
I think, and I've been surprised, but I have been encountering quite often exhibitions of Latin American women in Europe, because I remember in 2019, in around November, that we visited Berlin with the Royal College of Art. There was an amazing exhibition from the Colombian artist Beatriz González, which was actually very inspiring, in a place called Kunstwerke Berlin. And then last year, I think it was, and I think I can't recall, Isa, if you came to it, because we went with some of the Alteras people. But there was an amazing exhibition of Luchito Hurtado, this Venezuelan artist, in the Serpentine Gallery. And I've been seeing, like, I remember before COVID, I remember at the Whitechapel Gallery, there was a video piece from an Argentine female artist. I can't remember her name. So I somehow have been seeing, I mean, each day a bit more. Still, I think we have to push forward, but I do think there's a curiosity, at least, or a space for doing things, which is something positive.
Yeah, no, it's good to have something, you know, just step by step. We can have some names pop up in the news. It'll be exciting.
But also, even, I don't know if I would call her Latin America, but she lived a big part of her childhood in Buenos Aires. There was last year, just before COVID, this big exhibition from Dora Maar, and she had a strong influence in her childhood in Buenos Aires. So that's another one in Tate Modern.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure she's considered Latin America, but
no, because she lived part of her childhood in Buenos Aires, actually.
Oh, nice. Oh, good. Well, you already talked about, Tere, you already talked about your practice, about your boat. I don't know, would you like to continue, say a little bit more about your practice in general, or your, would you like to go a little bit beyond about the materials or your practice in general?
I guess it's difficult to speak about one material, because I tend to be quite versatile, because I sometimes feel that well, there might be some people not agreeing with me, but if you get stuck into one material, maybe you can progress in that material, but then you don't allow creativity to flow and to grow and to get new ideas. So I try to push myself to try lots of different materials. Also, as I was studying, I was in I would say, a very experimental stage in my practice, because I wanted to take advantage of all the workshops and facilities from the college, because as you graduate, then it's more difficult to get access. That's why I kind of like push myself to learn how to do wood carving, stone carving, working in etching, lithography. So I had VR, AR. So I tried to kind of like to learn the more things I could while I was studying, which I think is something good. Normally I select materials according to the piece and to what I want to express, because I think there has to be a consistency between what you want to express and how do you want to express it. So for some, I mean, now at the moment I'm working in a series of lithography that I'm going to mix with the watercolors. I don't want to tell much about it, but it has to do
But it's exciting, yeah, to back for different materials and try to express and experiment again, you know.
And then the other thing I'm working on is in a papier-mâché sculpture. And I'm also working in the admin of my other exhibitions, because unfortunately, even though admin is maybe not the most exciting part of life, it's something you have to do to make things working. And I am just seeing in the chat that there's a question from the art of fake news, that I don't know if you want to leave it for now, Isa, or do you want to leave it for later?
No, you can do now, Tere. I think it's I like when have flexible, you know. Yeah, please, if you don't mind to read. I don't have access to the chat at the moment.
Well, so well, I have to say, because this question is for Josefa, but it does relate to part of my practice. Because I do think I have a big inspiration in sociological and anthropological phenomena. I did a collection of jewelry inspired in East Ireland culture, and most of my research is always inspired in human beings or things that I find absurd or even our own inconsistencies. That's why I use a lot the image of the circus, because I think that everything has become spectacular. And so there's a question here for Josefa saying, Josefa, does your interest in dance can be anthropological?
Oh, very interesting. Of course, yes. I am new to all the dance discipline, and this has been a journey of learning all the different dance types. And when doing dance photography, what do they want to show, and how do you validate in a picture something that comes from the dance discipline? It can be, for example, a certain movement. When you're talking about ballet, they are pressing a muscle, that kind of perfection. But then when you're talking about different kinds of dance, something else is different. For example, I worked with a contemporary dancer and I had to show what the dancer felt. So if he wanted to feel like water, I had to show that. And then if you can take that even further, especially when you work with dances that come from popular backgrounds. So for example, right now I'm working on a project about flamenco. So flamenco, where does it come from? What's the root of it? I'm sure it has anthropological things. If you go to Africa, to certain music that is made to be danced, then it's also, it has a very anthropological purpose in the end. But then how do other contemporary dancers relate to those roots is also interesting. And then how to translate that into imagery is very interesting. So yes, I'm sure you can dive very deep into the anthropological sense of dance, with one type of dance more than others, for sure.
No, this is a nice question. Yeah, it's exciting to go something. Well, I can maybe give continuity to back to the Doménica. Try to swap a little bit. You'd like to say about? Let's have a look here. Do you think have one specific space do you can see relate in London, is like specialized in Latin America, or some places do you think it show more Latin America artists, or this is really open, or really depends on the curator or the topic of the exhibition?
A space in which shows more. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think Tere will be mostly appropriate to answer this one. I don't know if there's a specific space. I know there is maybe a university that has a big collection of Latin American art. I was just recently, I forgot if it's Essex or Sussex. They're very similar, but it was interesting because they noticed within their collections that there was not enough. There was not Latin. They didn't have in their collection, and it started this collection by an artist donating his work, and this act of donating his work make other artists donate his work, and then they kind of like within the span of like 6 months they gather around 200 works of art with different mediums. So that was something I just kind of like recently came across with. And I thought this act of kind of like, yes, in order to gain perhaps visibility, sort of like the act of donating work, let's find a space and then they use maybe this collection of Latin American art within this university. So I thought that was, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, Yeah, no, we know some few, but I agree with you. It's not very punctual. But you have I don't know if you know the galleries, the Cecilia Brown's. It's kind of specialist in Latin America, and you have a collective about amalgama. They have they try to sometimes not only represent but try to spread some activities or Latin American, and I think it is interesting to try to go beyond or have more spaces, related to try to promote Latin American artists in London, UK in general. Yeah, it's nice. And Susana, I will have a question for you now. What do you think for the Latin American, the 21st century? Do you think it will have different challenges? I don't know, over the past of year, what do you think will be the new challenge for the 21st century?
For artists.
Yes, for the artists. Latin American women.
Oh, for me, it's the same. Female artists. We are in a different position with male artists. Although in the universities, you can see the percentage of students, female students, in comparison with male students, is totally different. Percentage of female is much more bigger than the male. But that happens in the universities, and that's it. When you go out of the universities, who has most exposition is male. So it's very difficult for female artists. I find it personally, especially in this city, it's more open for people from outside. This new postmodernism help us people of outsiders that they call the others.
Yes,
make us to show ourselves with our own voice. So with this cast, I can see it's more open for us. But it's still limitations, it's still things that we need to fall down. It's very, very hard for female artists. So I think that limitation is still, that gender limitations is still very hard, and it's very hard for us to work on it. But we are doing, I think Latin America, we are doing well, and we are creating these groups, and although this few is so little, but we are progressing, I think.
Yeah. Maybe you can give like to you, Tere, do you think it for be like an artist and creator, Latin American woman, do you feel this kind of open doors? It's getting easier for you, or do you feel this kind of accepted, or sometimes limitation? What do you feel, your personal feeling, or you have a knowledge for different creators and artists as well?
I have to say, I've been almost 5 years in London, and I have felt that this is an amazing place to work. I haven't felt any limitations at all, not at all. For me, I think it's more about being professional, being punctual, sending the right information. But I think that in a city like London, it's pretty open, and there are plenty of opportunities, especially because being in London also opens opportunities to other places in Europe. And what I think, and it might be a bit polemical, my opinion with this, so I hope not to have.
Go ahead. We love polemicals.
Agreements. But what I think the problem why still, because what Susana says is something that is a fact, is statistic. I mean, you see more women in art schools, but then still you see more men in museums and galleries and exhibitions. But I think it's more a social constructure that rather than the lack of opportunities. Because I had this very interesting experience at the Royal College of Art in one lecture. So there was a classmate who, at the end of the lecture of a tutor, she raised her hand because it was a practice lecture and the tutor was speaking about his practice. And she asked him, well, and what do you recommend us as emergent artists that we can do to approach commissions and opportunities? And the whole I mean, the big percentage of the auditorium, the biggest percentage were women and young. And the tutor replied to her, well, actually, if you're a woman and young, you will have difficulties because the statistics say so. And I find it horrendous. Like, I couldn't believe that he was actually answering this. And then, but for me, what was even more shocking was no one complaining or having a debate about it. And when I asked my classmates, and I said to them, well, but because maybe I personally I've never been to like a women's demonstration, something like that, because I prefer to protest with what I do through my work rather than losing my time going into a demonstration. But this is my approach. I think it's fair enough if other people prefer to go to the demonstration. I think we all have different characters. Yeah. I'm more like hands-on and doing things, and that's the way I deal with it. But I remember asking some classmates, but didn't you feel this was a bit patronizing and sexist, what he said? Because if we allow that in a university institution, these kind of things are set up and said as something obvious. I mean, because of course the tutor was right with what he was saying as a statistic, but for me it was the way he was approaching it. Because if it's an educational institution, he should be saying, well, this is the statistic, but you're here to break the statistic. And that's what I would expect of a tutor saying in the 21st century. But what was surprising was that when I asked my classmates, but didn't you feel it was patronizing or sexist? And most of them said to me, no, I think you understood wrong what he meant to say. And I was like, yeah, but he just said that the statistics says that women are basically going to fail because there's less opportunities. And so then I think that if people start with this preconception and they're being raised as their children with this preconception, so basically telling them, as you're a woman, you're not going to have opportunities and it's difficult for you because you're a woman. If you start with that, then the time when you have the opportunity to meet the curator and to go to the gallery, you will be in your head like, well, I'm a woman, they're not going to consider me. And then, of course, then that's going to happen. So I think I don't think there is a lack of, I haven't experienced it really. I haven't experienced in my life a lack of opportunities in a city like London for a young woman and young Latin American woman, on the contrary. But what I feel is that there's a social construction that many times women start from the preconception that they're going to have less opportunities. And that's what I think we have to work on. So I think Josefa wants to add something.
Yes, I would like to add that being Latin American, I think we have to make good use of our roots with matriarchal societies and really get our Latin side out, you know, and all this subject and get a voice and get out there and do things and, you know, do the stereotype a bit. But I think in this case, it's necessary. I have seen the same and I feel the same, and I don't understand how other people don't think that way, but I think we have to be more Latin.
Yeah.
But I
embrace.
I want to tell you some experience that what you say. I was visit some galleries with my classmate the first week in my MA. He was English and he said to us, people from outside of England, I am going to visit some galleries. People from outside, would you like to come with me? I can show you some galleries. I say, okay. So we went, in my course was a lot of Asians. So we went the Asians and me, unique South America. And so we are walking around the galleries and he said to me, look, you have more opportunity than me to have exhibition in these galleries because you are from abroad. You are a woman and you are Latin America. It's much more interesting if I come to the gallery and say, oh, look, I am artist, English artist, and my work is about that. And the gallery, okay. And you come behind me and you say, you are artists, women artists from Latin America, and that's my work. So he said, it's not fair to say that, but I think you have more opportunity than me. And it's just what I said before. I think because this era of postmodernism that supposed give the voice of us, of the otherness, I think that is the time for us to get advantage of that and start to show of that. It's very poor, I can say. It's very poor in London. It's just the place, the gallery, what you say. It's just one gallery, the Cecilia Branson project. She's a Chilean woman that live in USA and get married to the English and come here and make a gallery. It's just one gallery from South American art. It's incredible. It's so poor. And I was in the last meeting in Central St. Martin's. Was a invite person to speak about the life of artists outside, finish the university, what happened with us outside. So he was explaining about how deal with the galleries, how the exhibitions, all the economics rules, laws, and everything. And was one artist, one student that asked about who is managed South American art? He was Mexican. And he said, oh, I don't know who is managed art. Because the art of South America is bad, it's not good art. So I don't know who is managed that. I was shocked. And the pure Mexican boy was, what? We were shocked. It's like, it's true. I think that is our challenge. The people we are here, South American people we are here, we have to fight, we have to work so hard to make our voice loud and to make our voice known. Because it's the image what they have from us is so different from the rest of Europe. So I think that is our big challenge.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we must to try to embrace and have this kind of collective project. I think we'll be, strong together, really, to try to avoid this kinds of not a very pleasant conversation, just to put in your fingers, this kind of is sorry you hear about that, because it's not nice that you send it 24th century in London, central London. They're not supposed to have this kind of. Anyway, people is like that. Well, Doménica, I'd like to ask you a question for you. Yes. To talk about something influence about your practice. What do you maybe describe something more about your practice, or specifically your work you did for the Blaw image?
Yes. So I was initially trained as a textile designer, and all my work initially was textile based, and I believe a lot of references from my work, despite not working with textiles or yarns or fibers, references a lot of the development of textiles. There is something I try to apply within my work, which is called textile thinking, which is kind of like, let's say, problem solving, or kind of like bringing up forms or solutions through textile knowledge. And for me, that is like a fascinating world, because I'm more specifically interested in weaving. So weaving is all about structures, and weaving is such a beautiful discipline, because it can get really, really technical. It can also be very poetic when we talk about weaving identities, weaving, different, let's say, kind of like bringing together different things and forming a uniform structure anyway. So this is something I'm very passionate about, the language of textiles and what it means. And I use a lot of that, especially color as well, in textiles. The process of like dyeing and getting the right color as well influences a lot of the colors I use to structure my print work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so specifically for the exhibition, I developed a print, a digital print, but for me it has a lot of this textile thinking and language, either in the way of the patterns are built and this sort of like modularity. So textiles, when you develop them, they need to be sort of like infinite, let's say, if you produce fabrics that are quite long. So the pattern was built in a way that kind of like you can still, because the forms are quite either geometrical, organic, abstract, they merge one with another. So this idea of weaving, you can still place it in different modules, such as woven structures, and it can still create new forms. So that was the whole sort of like process behind it. And yeah, and it was, when I made it, it was during lockdown, and it was quite a gloomy time right at the beginning. And I aimed to make a very bright, positive one, sort of like to help me out with my feelings of feeling quite, you know, uncertain, anxious. So I try to make something that will make me positive, kind of like thinking in bright colors and seasons and changes. Yeah, so yeah.
But do you, maybe sounds very, I don't know, naive question, but have some relate to heritage, the color, and something regarding to Ecuador, or something your family history, or just something you just develop your practice for your own?
Yeah, that's really an interesting question for me, because I think that is like the sole question I've been trying to still sort out within myself. Like, why is it that I'm interested in weaving, in textiles specifically? Because I personally, when I was in Ecuador and I grew up there, my life was pretty much as any other millennial living in a city, right? I come from Ecuador, but I can't talk about like, oh yeah, my mother used to weave, and I have this knowledge. I have no direct connection to indigenous people who weave, but still, I've always been fascinated about craft, and I remember perhaps going into, I live in the second largest city in Ecuador, so when I would go to, let's say, remote areas, then we would see, textile work or basketry. I remember being very intrigued about mostly the time-consuming process of it. I think I'm very fascinated about things that take time to make, and effort and handmade. So I think that's within me, something I appreciate. But I think I still want to understand why is this sort of like fascination or connection, or if it means something with my heritage. And I think I will need to keep making it to, kind of like word it properly. But now I'm still kind of like, I need to find that out. But there might be something. Still don't know yet, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I really can see the relation between your work and Susana's work, and really can see completely, the colors and the texture, the way, the kind of the process, the heritage process.
Isa,
yes, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, may I interrupt, because I've noticed a couple of questions in the chat and we might want to respond them.
Oh, please go ahead. I cannot have this, to see the chat, and I just talk.
So, well, Ludmila Sigismondo, she has sent some greetings. The Art of Fake News is saying, good, Josefa, agree. Then Andrea Rocha is asking, which is the most remarkable exhibition of Latin American women that you have attended? I don't know who would like to answer. Maybe Josefa?
I don't know. Somebody else answers.
Or Susana? You're mute, Susana.
I want to answer, but I am mute. In London was the texture code, was made by Amalgama. It's recently, before the quarantine, was in a building in front of Royal Academy, and was a group of Latin American women specializing in textiles and how the symbolism works. And was so interesting how these different girls from different countries, one of them especially create a tool to to do this symbolism. And she was exhibited as well at the same time in the Royal Academy. So that was very interesting to see how, because I am interested in symbolism in textiles as well. So for me, it was so exciting to see that exhibition, how different women develop this symbolism of textiles. So that is the most interesting exhibition that I saw just before the quarantine.
Nice, nice.
Oh, thank you, Susana. There's another question here from Andrea Rosa that maybe this one Josefa can reply. It says, which cultural aspects would you like to highlight from Latin American cultures in contrast to European cultures?
Oh, I think I would like to highlight the relationship we have with nature. And yes, coming from indigenous tribes and even from language, we in Latin America, we either speak Spanish or Brazilian, and we don't have the words for the highest mountains, the ice, the desert, the tropical rains. They don't exist here in Europe. So I think that is fascinating, and it's present especially in poetry. I'm fascinated by that. And I think I never realized this until I came to Europe, and I realized we had a different view here, nature. And when you go on the highway, you can see trees in a row, and you see the sea with a pier, and the waves, they are like slowed down. It's not a wild nature. Especially coming from Chile. In Chile, we don't have anything that's poisonous or venomous, but we have tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes. So I think we have a different relationship. And I think if we, as a worldwide, we would relate more to nature, understand its cycles, how we need nature, but nature doesn't need us, and all of these other aspects, I think we could really relate more to climate change and things with environmental impact. I think I would like to export that.
This is nice. Tere, have more question in the chat?
Let me check. I think we went through all of them, because there was another from the Art of Fake News, but you asked this at the beginning. If do you think that female Latin American artists are getting more visibility, or how do you see our production in the art world? But we went through that initially, so I think we're good with the chat on the meanwhile.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, just maybe it's a very, I don't know, to talk about the practice, about specifically what in the Blade image, this exhibition. I don't know if maybe Susana, would you like to talk about your work? Because Doménica says, I don't know, maybe so everyone knows Susana and Tere, they like to talk about specifically about Blade image, the window project, Blaw Editions.
Okay, so that print that I did for this exhibition was a continuation of my project that I did for my master degree. So there are a close-up image of my sculpture. So I want to suggest a different direction from the sculpture, but all this work is directed by the influence of representation of Latin American stereotypes in a contemporary setting. So I create that image that can be produced as a photography. And to what Teresa said before, I am into that craziness of when I was in the university, go to every workshop, good workshop, meta workshop, photography, videos, soundtracks. I think was our curiosity and creativity as an artist to try to learn everything that, especially, for example, in my country, adding the school in this college is not a subject of education. So for me, that curiosity made me move to different things. And I use materials like textiles, fabrics, ropes, metals to experiment with the texture, with the quality, with the symbolism. And that, I think, make rich my artistic practice. But at the same time, make me crazy, make me loose, because I am moving from one technique to another technique to another technique. And now I realized that I didn't develop any of them. I just moving from one to another and to another. So now with this quarantine, to think about my practice, to think about our reality, what happened with us, to limit us to everything, is like, okay, I don't have enough material. That is great because the workshop, everything was closed. So I didn't have enough material to work. And I was thinking, okay, I can develop the techniques and the materials that I have at home. So I think at the moment I am in this movement of textiles, materials, and techniques to try to which one represent what I want to say, which one is more direct or more bold that I want to say. My main thing is color. My main principle is color. I am moving between abstraction and semi-abstraction. So at the moment I am developed that. I don't know if I want to settle in one thing, because I am not like that. So that is my discussion and my experimentation at the moment.
And specifically for the exhibition, you did a photograph just to print it, just to present your work, or you think it to develop a photography, your practice as well, like Josefa?
Exactly, exactly. I was so excited with the result to present a photography of textile. So the geographic figures, geography, I am crazy. The geometric figures that was I creating was moving in Photoshop the different image of my sculptures. And what I found interesting was the possibilities of moving them, and also the texture that the textiles create. So create an image of textiles as a photograph. So I was thinking, oh, that could be an interesting way to move it. So the sculptures that I did become not the final piece, become the material to move to another place, to another way. That made me interesting to think about what I can do with that. It was very interesting project that I did, and I think I can continue to develop that.
Oh, this is nice. I think it is all have this kind of creative process. You develop and try to experimentation, different materials and medias, and to transform and create something beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely. Tere, would you like to say anything about your work as well, or you're good about your about your print and yes, because you talk about your boat, about your practice, but it's something specifically about this image in Blaze image.
Well, actually, I was inspired by something very sad that happened in 2018 in Brazil, that the museum, the National History Museum, was at Ana Luisa Not?
Yes, in Rio, no?
Yeah. Was burned. And for me, what was quite shocking and surprising was that actually the only thing that survived the fire was a meteorite, a Meteorito Bendigo. And this has made me, because in my practice I'm quite intrigued and connected and tried to push forward thinking on was climate change. And when you see like companies like Tesla, but I think it's great. I don't have anything against it, but they're investing to explore and to go to Mars, and that people want to invest in going to Mars, and then it's like, yeah, but can we not invest first in keeping safe our own planet before we try to go and colonize a second planet? And for me, what was amazing of this was seeing that actually the whole museum and heritage was burned, but the meteorite survived. And the print portrays this image of the meteorite in the middle of the flames. Initially, it was a print I did in photolithography, but when you invited me to organize this exhibition, I translated it to a digital language using colors of the area of Blaze Image Gallery, because I felt it wouldn't work to print digitally a print that had been initially made like handmade, so it just wouldn't work. And I think it's a bit shocking and interesting to reflect how we can just destroy everything, but things that come from the space are going to remain.
Yeah.
And also part of it, there's also a sense of humor behind, because the name is Se Garanta Invista in Martes, that means be safe, invest in Mars. So yeah, I don't know if you would like to add anything else, Isa.
No, I think you're good. No, we passed for different topics, and I don't know if you don't, but maybe Doménica or Josefa, would you like to say anything else about your practice, or you have something about this kind of visibility of Latin America woman in London, or you're good?
Well, I hope this grows and this project becomes a snowball for more collaborations, visibility, union between other Latin American artists. At least from my perspective in Lisbon, I don't see it very often, especially between Spanish speaking and Portuguese speaking. And I think it's an amazing opportunity, and we should nourish that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you all. We are represent the Bora Girls. We were really, really pleased to. Yeah.
I just noticed there's a last question in the chat that says, how would you encourage, let's say, an English friend to get to know Latin American artists? Maybe Doménica can answer.
An English friend. I think in that case, you know, it's mostly about perhaps, I mean, let's take in a much more contemporary scene, getting to know the person, perhaps, you know, like, you know, where their origins, where they came from, or, you know, what made up, you know, their, yeah, like identity. So I think it, like, to understand Latin America, perhaps arts, or, you know, the materials that we use, or the themes that we're talking about, is also getting to know more about, you know, like the people. So perhaps that could also be, you know, because sometimes, you know, the themes we talk about, it can be, you know, they're like quite global, also can be quite, you know, humble and simple, and talking about, you know, empowerment, and perhaps, you know, nature and heritage. So I think to know the people behind the work, you know, and for instance, this panel, I think it's like the best example, you know, it's like your inspirations, and like, you know, how did you arrive there? So, and I think the work that you both are doing, you know, Bora Girls, you know, Tere as well, and participating in this is, you know, a good first step.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you, Doménica. I agree. I think we must start point to develop our practice, and to try to spread the knowledge for your British friends, you know, and try to open, because we are for completely different background, if you think in Latin America, but so spread and have different kind of heritage and colorful and texture and meanings, you know, because it's very personal. And I think to try to spread and to make they understand, when you talk about Latin America, especially artist woman, is really open, you know, and it's not individual, cannot simplify and put in a line, because we are not like that. We're much more than that. You know, it's a very big, and I like this knowledge Josefa said about this snowball. You know, this is like small, but we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. Eddie, would you like to say anything else, or we think I don't know, you're running off time, I guess.
Yes, I would like to first thank for the artists who participate in this project. Thanks for the people who are watching this live stream, and also to invite people to come to Blaw Editions at Place Image Gallery. You can follow Bora Girls on Instagram or Place Image Galleries to get more news about it. And we're going to be organizing a guided tour, a live stream guided tour next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. So I would invite people to join us, because then I will be explaining more details about each of the pieces. But thank you very much for having this lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. And thank you. And have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Ciao, gracias.